everyone tells you, time is going to heal everything, and you got to be more patient and blah blah blah. But he does say that when you're 17, people don't remember being 16. So when you're out of that pain, people don't remember being in that pain. So you can, wait for time to pass and wait for that pain just to be in memory and not in your bones. But this is today. And how do you get through it? You're still 16. You can wait for 17 all the time that you want, but this is still 16. And, how do you get through it? This is still today. How do you get through that pain? And then the movie ends in a very positive note where it says, well, you got to live in the moment. In this moment, we are this. In this moment, we are that. And it's beautifully like, in this moment, we are infinite. So you got to keep reminding yourself that you got to live for the present. And it's very difficult to remember that when you're in that pain. But obviously, you got to see that movie again and again to keep reminding yourself, to keep hitting your head that this will pass, this will pass.
Do you remember the first time you watched the film? What was that feeling like? And have you revisited it right now? या फिर आपने पहली बार अभी देखी है? What are your thoughts about the film? Have they grown over the years? What have you been feeling about the film over the years? या फिर आपने पहली बार देखी तो आपके दिमाग में अभी क्या चल रहा है? Would you like to share all of that?
Okay, so I first watched the film when I was in 11th grade, and I didn't like the film at all because I think I was too young to understand it. And the film does a bad job in explaining what it is, right? In my opinion, at least. I thought it's just a high school movie, the kind that we have seen over and over again. But then just last year, I happened to read the source material, and I realized that, okay, this is not what it appears to be. And that's when I realized that, okay, these are the layers to this book. And I think this hypothesis that I had, it kind of has some merit to it, because I saw the movie once again, like for the second time, just yesterday. And that's when I noticed this thing that, okay, this movie has those elements from the book, because obviously this movie is also written by the same guy, right? Or directed by the same guy. But still, the movie is very, it's shy about a few things. It leaves a lot of things to the subtext. Even the abuse part is not something that the movie is very express about. It's like, it deals with those things in innuendos. So, yes, I think the movie has definitely grown on me because, when I revisited it after reading the book.
It might easily come across as any other high school drama, teenage drama. But there's a lot more to unpack.
So I saw the movie for the first time when I was in 9th. Then I saw it again in 10th because I couldn't understand it when I saw it for the first time. I also read the book twice. Then I watched the movie again in 12th, I think. And this time, yesterday when I saw it, it was about the 4th or 5th time that I was watching it. Yeah, I think the movie, like all book adaptation, suffers from not doing justice to the book, because I think the book was very complex. It had a lot to it, but the movie couldn't fit everything in it.
I watched the movie first time 2 times. One was when it released back in 2012, and abhi recently. I'd completely forgotten what the base problem. All I remembered was someone beats someone up who's not supposed to, and someone kisses someone they're not supposed to. Itna meko yaad tha bas. And at the time I'd watched it twice or thrice. I still forgot, because later I watched series like 13 Reasons Why. So I forgot treatment that high school dramas get. वो थोड़ा change हो गया. It's like murder, वो सब बहुत ज़्यादा portray करने लग गया. Sensationalism ज़्यादा हो गया. So first time when I watched this, I felt that the treatment was pretty cool. Later, I found out that the director is the writer. Later, if you same kind of feeling I get from the movie called Flipped, which released I think much before that, but also from the movie called Wonder, which this same director released a few years later. But yeah, the movie leaves you with this feeling: we are infinite. Very, very positive. I just love it.
But we have seen many high school dramas and we have a certain understanding of it. Does this fit that template? Does it not? If it doesn't, why? What is the difference?
The minute you think about high school movies, you have Mean Girls in your mind, you have Superbad in your mind, and even maybe Breakfast Club, because that where it seems like the high school adaptation is more realistic. But again, all of those people in that movie, those characters have been categorized. There's a brain, there's an athlete, there's a princess, there's a basket case, and there's a jock. But this movie doesn't do that. It's more realistic. And I think that this is the realist portrayal of, high school drama that I've ever seen. And obviously the first impressions left me a bit, I don't know, it touched me. a lot, and it's not easy to remove that movie out of your soul at all.
It speaks about this alienation so well. The group of close people who are away from this large chunk of people. I used to feel that about my friend circle. कि, अच्छा, okay, this is what sort of represents us, if not completely. इन्होंने ना उनकी alienation को बस एक identity बना के रख अलग कर दिया, but उन्होंने उस पर हैमर नहीं किया हर बार उसको याद दिलाना है कुछ. And they sort of just existed in their own space. They would conduct their plays. वो जो उनका म्यूजिकल वो करते थे, रॉकी हॉरर पिक्चर शो एंड एवरीथिंग. तो आई थिंक वो मेरे लिए ट्रीटमेंट था उस वे में बहुत मैटर किया था कि इन्होंने इस चीज को कैसे टैकल किया है. और क्योंकि मैंने बुक आज तक भी नहीं पढ़ी है, तो आई डोंट नो लाइक हाउ बेटर द बुक इज, बट हाँ, द मूवी कंप्लीटली वर्कड फॉर मी.
द कैमरा इज वेरी एम्पैथेटिक. एलियनेशन के उनके या फिर उनके कोई कोर है जहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम है उनके चल रहे हैं, but it's not hammered upon, it's not talked about all the time, because that's not how, I don't know, that's not how trauma works. It lingers, probably does not exist in every moment of your life. You still are able to sort of maneuver through the different things around you, and the certain triggers might probably lead you to certain behaviors. But I mean, that's my understanding based on my personal experiences also.
And even in the visual treatment ना, उन्होंने जो थोड़ी सी soft lights पर उस पे frame में रखी है ना, मतलब which sort of makes it feel like almost a photograph, like it's a purana. And the movie is itself being set in the 90s, early 90s also. I think वो मतलब वो बहुत छोटी-छोटी चीजें हैं, but subconsciously वो work करती हैं.
थोड़ा grainy भी था screen at times, especially in the last bits, which I don't know, it helps a lot in setting that nostalgic feel as well.
Yeah, I remember, I think I was in school, like I think 8th or 9th when I think this movie came out, I'm not sure. But at that time I didn't watch the movie because I had a personal rule that I won't watch something without reading the books, or I won't do that. Like I want to stay, always go to the source material first. So that's why I missed out watching this back then. So that's why when I saw the poster you all are screening this, I'm like, sure, one movie that I left out, let me just watch it. And I didn't, if I'm going to watch a movie, I won't watch the trailer right before it. So I just went into it because I remember it being a high school thing. And just like Sankal Poti said, the lighting, like when I started watching the movie, I went in fully expecting an American high school movie. But the lighting, the setting of it, it gave me a feeling that it's not a whole, even though it's what they're showing is very warm and all, I felt like there's something coming, like an impending sense of this sort of sadness to certain scenes, like even the happy scenes, it wasn't done in your typical way. So I had a hint, but yeah, Thursday night I sat to watch it thinking it'd be a nice light movie, and then 1:30 in the night I'm sitting and crying. So that was very took me by surprise. But yeah, and after that I went and watched the trailer, and the trailer is very misleading. The trailer has all this peppy music playing.
I feel that it had all the elements of what a proper high school drama would have in terms of having a template, archetype, characters, everything. You had an introverted protagonist, which always works the best, because introverted guys are supposed to be nice people, or introverted girls also nice people, but in their closet will open up when a bubbly person comes in. And that template works. Like every film, it works out somehow. So my point was that here also it had that. There were all sorts of template characters that existed, but again, they went beyond the template. They went beyond the archetype and tried to find their core. Especially, they found the core, especially of Sam a bit, and of Charlie, obviously. And I think वो core find करने का जो quest था ना, I think वही इस film को अलग बनाता है बाकी फिल्मों से. Otherwise, template wise, it's the same. Like same thing even for Sex Education. The packaging of Sex Education and the trailer of this film, as well as Erika mentioned, seems very peppy. Seems very like general high school drama where you'll just have a good time. Like a nice popcorn film, but but I think that packaging is also important because you want to reach to a wider audience, or you want to have a certain appeal. I think that might be the case. And us packaging mein, if you are providing a product which is very emotional, soft, and a little more than what we generally see, I think that was what the intention of this was, and even Sex Education for that matter.
And I agree with कि वो उस trope में it gives into that trope. An introverted character and then a bubbly person enters and makes it entirely this thing. But yeah, this movie, it leaves you with a very positive feeling. It is one of the things that I took away from it. Most of the high school dramas or whatever, usse pehle jo dekha tha, I feel it was either Hannah Montana or something, if you would call it that. Usse pehle to there was absolutely zero exposure to like American culture of high school. But isme I did not feel that I am alien to the culture or something. The character somehow felt very natural.
For me, what like personally sets this movie apart from other high school movies is the opposite of what you said. I think a part of this has to do with the fact that this story has some genesis in Catcher in the Rye. And that is also one book that you see the English teacher give to Charlie in the movie, right? Disillusionment, then you have acceptance, and then you have celebration. That's the arc that most coming of age movies follow. In this movie, that arc is over by 1 hour mark, and then there are still 40 minutes left. And what happens in those 40 minutes is this deconstruction of a perspective. Like in the Catcher in the Rye, the क्या बोलते हैं, cynical perspective of the protagonist was deconstructed. At the same time, here you had a protagonist who was very sensitive and appreciative of people's individualities, right? And he was removed from that context, and he was like forced to look at people not on an individual level, but as a mass. And he noticed something about them, that okay, these people that I see around me, their individuality does not matter much. What matters much, what I'm sensing from them is essentially the same emotion. There's pain here, there's pain there, there's pain everywhere, and that is a conflict that this movie cleverly leaves unresolved. So for that moment before the climax, where it just mutes all the individualities of the characters, and then towards the end, it again turns them back on. I think that is what sets this movie or this book apart for me personally when it comes to a high school story.
One major distinction I saw from other high school dramas and this one was that nobody was villain. Otherwise, all conventional high school dramas, there's a bully, and then there is this secluded guy who rises up and develops character and all of that. But this movie showed that, okay, there were villains, the Brad who couldn't admit that he loved Patrick and all of that. But he also had his own reasons. He also had his own trauma to carry to his family and all of that. So I think that's a very interesting point.
When he starts writing when the movie starts, he writes this letter, right? Like, I hope there's somebody like you out there who's not going to be scared by who I am, who's just going to see people for who they are. Like, that's the essence. They're just trying to find somebody or like believe in that there are going to be people out there who are just going to see you for who you are, not for how you appear, or not for what box you fit in, maybe in how people perceive people. I think it's a strong emotion to want to find somebody like that, especially like if there are some people who are trying to build their own worldview, like from like so scratch. It's so scratch that you really are like a completely neutral person, like just deep, like just painfully neutral almost, which is, I guess, an oxymoron. But because you're starting everything from scratch, and then you have like no radar for a while, so you build everything from scratch, and that's really how also weirdness is developed. So these are like kids who are doing Rocky Horror Show, which is just nobody thinks that's like a popular thing to do in school, and because they're trying to build their own perspective. So that I can appreciate this, that it's about kids who are trying to build their own perspective from scratch, and the path to doing that is being very weird and strange along the way, or like ending up in situations that are strange.
The friend who died of suicide, Charlie's friend, जो पहले था उसका, and whom he used to write letters to. Did anybody feel that friend was just an imaginary figure, like a figment of his imagination? And like, I want to lead that to a larger question of us talking about the treatment again of how mental health is dealt with in this film.
So I never felt that friend was imaginary, and reason being because it was a big thing, and like उसके parents वगैरह भी involved in that sense कि he was hospitalized, and throughout the movie I don't think they use the word depression, like they use the term for any specific mental health issue. They just mention that I was a kid who was in hospital, who went to the hospital. Just that term has been used, I think, movie में. I think उन्होंने थोड़ा सा probably वो society का trauma दिखाने के लिए कि मतलब how people are reluctant to like even talk about it. They just, a meltdown or a breakdown is just considered to be, मतलब it was just like a pent up rage, they consider it. it's not dealt with intricately, तो इसलिए उन्होंने सोसाइटी में उसके बारे में नाम नहीं लिया, बहुत ham-fisted हो जाता मेरे हिसाब से, which they've done well. And like I think इसके friend circle में, because all of them have gone through their own shares of problems, right? I feel वो, although they understood it, they never let it be heavy on him. Like last जो scene है, like penultimate scene है, basically the three of them are in the cafe, and Patrick just jokes कि Charlie has a meltdown scheduled for October. तो I think वो बहुत sensitive line है कि you are not letting it be heavy on your friend कि भाई जो तेरे साथ हुआ बहुत कुछ heavy था. It was very ठीक है यार, मतलब it's okay, मतलब it's just another thing. तो I think वो बहुत उन्होंने sensitively deal किया.
With regards to trauma as well and with the friends, so because again I've read the book, I don't think the friend made up at all. It was not an imagination, that I'm very sure of. See, that's a problem. Like, if I had not read the book, maybe I would have had a very different interpretation of the movie like you did. I appreciated that you have that interpretation. I wish I had that, but I've read the book. So I can't think that way at all, even if I try to. I think that was another one of the reasons why he had to go into therapy and, write those letters as well. With trauma, I don't think the movie closed out anyone's trauma and like gave it an end entirely, because I don't think it's something that in a snap and in an instant goes away, right? Even with the entire thing that happened with Patrick, I think it was pretty much there a bit, even in the end. Even the bit with Sam, she's still trying to figure out how to love herself better and to find her worth. And of course, we know that Charlie's trauma, the entire thing was not done with, right? Like, the movie never showed or never said that, okay, it's done and dusted and he's in the clear now, right? But the movie did show that he is learning how to deal with it. And I think the movie shows that brilliantly for all the characters. Not just Charlie, even for Sam, Patrick, to an extent, even for Candice, where she does end up breaking up with her boyfriend, the sister. She was a very subtle character in the movie, at least. Not in the book, but at least in the movie, very subtly shown. She does break up with him.
I personally find it pretty understandable and fine as well, and much more realistic when it doesn't close down all those बना वो बहुत ही क्या बोलते हैं manufactured हो जाता है.
Overall, the feeling that the movie leaves you with is things are going to be okay. Sam, throughout the movie, she narrates that she has been through a bunch of shit over the recent past, like for 3-4 years, and yet her college admission goes through. She's going to college. She has this new experiences, and things turned out to be okay, which I feel kind of give Charlie gives him strength to somehow, because I don't know, they're friends or they've gone through some similar shit. So I don't know, it works for you as well if you see people going through like stuff around you. So it leaves you with a kind of feeling that things are going to be fine. Hope is more like a ... and not like a full stop. ऐसा नहीं है कि DDLJ की तरह कि हाँ हो गया खत्म, हाथ पकड़ लिया, शादी हुई, खत्म हो गया, happy ending bro. It's not like that. They're going to face a bunch of shit ahead of life. Abhi high school hi hai na, the entire lives are lying ahead. So it kind of leaves you with, which is why I feel that starting mein Sam is the one who is like spreading her arms, tunnel song play ho raha hai, and ending movie mein it's Charlie. So he's prepared to take on the world, is what it kind of feels.
I think a major part of the movie is that the adults were always antagonistically involved in the kids' lives, right? They all suffered at the hands of adults. So, like the aunt or the guy from Sam's story, that kid's father who beat him up. So, in fact, it's not just that parents are not involved. The movie is about a bunch of kids who are maybe actively trying to stay away from anyone who's older, even like slightly older. Like the college kids were also not really very cool, right? They were also very disingenuous.
I wanted to talk about the mental illness and talking about how someone has gone through PTSD. Obviously those words have never been spoken in that movie, but when a person is more sensitive to pain and more aware of the pain everywhere, I think Charlie does say this in the movie that there's so much pain everywhere, I don't know how to not notice it, right? And even when the pain is within you, in your bones, right now everyone tells you time is going to heal everything, and you got to be more patient and blah blah blah. But he does say that when you're 17, people don't remember being 16. So when you're out of that pain, people don't remember being in that pain. So you can, wait for time to pass and wait for that pain just to be in memory and not in your bones. But this is today. And how do you get through it? You're still 16. You can wait for 17 all the time that you want, but this is still 16. And, how do you get through it? This is still today. How do you get through that pain? And then the movie ends in a very positive note where it says, well, you got to live in the moment. In this moment, we are this. In this moment, we are that. And it's beautifully like, in this moment, we are infinite. So you got to keep reminding yourself that you got to live for the present. And it's very difficult to remember that when you're in that pain. But obviously, you got to see that movie again and again to keep reminding yourself, to keep hitting your head that this will pass, this will pass.
The film essentially is about acceptance. It's about forgiving yourself in some way or the other and treating yourself well before anybody else. It's very difficult, but those moments of feeling of infinite, if song provides you that, if, I don't know, yoga provides you that, working out provides you that, anything that provides you that feeling, it's not something that remains forever, but you can still try to, in some form or the other, routinize it to make you feel alive, because consciously to feel present is extremely difficult, is what I feel. At a very random question, was very interested to understand your understanding of the symbolism of a wallflower and what it really meant. So if I simply put and try to ask you, what are the perks of being a wallflower?
I think the biggest perk of being a wallflower is, I don't know, I'm saying not being noticed. Sometimes it works in your favor, when you're not noticed, you might, I don't want this to sound weird, but you might get away with stuff. Now, you don't have to do something, but observing people in itself is a huge, I don't know, it's an advantage. I don't want to sound abhi waisa, ekdam hi, but yeah.
We know your context. We're not talking about stalking, guys. Let's not, please remember the context.
Yeah. But yeah, it feels like you can be an observer, and sometimes it really works in your favor. And then you know what step to take. अब इतना calculative sound हो रहा है, उतना high school में होता नहीं है. But it sometimes works in your favor, I feel. वो टाइम पे भी जब मूवी देखा था पहले, वो I forgot what wallflower is basically. और अभी भी जब देखा, I had to like Google, अच्छा wallflower होता क्या यार, पहले ये तो देखते हैं. And yeah, it's mostly about bystander, na? Silent bystander, and that's what this guy says, Ezra Miller's character, that you listen and you watch. You're a wallflower.
Yeah, but okay, I actually still haven't seen what a wallflower looks like. But I would still like to ask you guys this as well. Before knowing what a wallflower was and after knowing like how it looked, what was the difference? Like for me, like I don't know what a wallflower is. I just don't know. I don't even know. I feel like money plant is a wallflower, maybe. I don't know. But मेरे दिमाग में wallflower जब ये film के context में आता है, a sunflower comes in my mind for some reason. Nothing else comes in my mind.
One perk which I think, like, because I was able to relate to, and like in certain sense with Charlie, is that you are a bystander and like you're able to observe, but sometimes there are situations where you become the focus of the group. So for example, if you see the party and some like you have not seen Charlie before, right? Like he has been there and you have not seen him before, but now that I tell you that there is someone like Charlie, like all of the attention will go towards him. Like there's because you have not seen him earlier. So in certain situations, like for example, if you think of the book sessions as well, he never wanted himself to come out in light and show that he knows answers, but people knew, like they started noticing that he was able to he was doing good in those sessions. So I think like one of the perks or maybe perils is that like you will come in limelight.
I think cons are mostly in the corporate world where, you're not supposed to be quiet and, you have to be more present and you have to, keep showing your face and make sure no one else takes your credit. But I think pros are more in the poetic world where you get to experience or even observe people and learn from, say, their mistakes. So you don't, repeat those mistakes, or also observe them and maybe increase what you've experienced or just your experience. So you can live maybe 60 years, but then just by observing people, you have gathered 120 years of experience. You've got some lessons behind in your backpack and say that, no, I'm not going to do this particular step because I've learned from someone else's experience. So maybe more a pro in a poetic sense.
I am someone who likes to do things very space mein. I don't go out a lot. I don't socialize a lot other than the so मेरे लिए corporate में I've been 8 years now. 8 years से भी ऊपर हो गया थोड़ा. When I am an individual, when I'm talking to people one on one, when I'm even when I'm handling my clients one on one, those things work like a charm. Because you observe people, how to deal with people, how to talk, किसके साथ कैसा बात करना है, वो जैसा देश वैसा भैंस वाला, मतलब आप लड़ भी लेते हो, भिड़ भी लेते हो, आप आराम से शांति से भी बात कर लेते हो, तो वो अच्छा वर्क करता है. बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू प्रेजेंटिंग थिंग्स और स्केल जब बढ़ जाती है ना, जैसे नाउ आई हैव 4 पीपल आई हैव टू मैनेज, तो वो जो होता है नाउ दीज आर 4 डिफरेंट पीपल. अब इनसे आप अकेले अकेले तो अच्छे से बात कर लेते हो, बट व्हेन यू हैव टू ब्रिंग 4 टुगेदर ना, अब वो एक पर्सनैलिटी से आपको अपनी से ही करना पड़ेगा, आप वो फिर इंडिविजुअल के साथ नहीं कर सकते. तो मे बी मतलब ऐसा ही बस. हाँ, द ओनली लेवरेज स्टिल यू हैव इज you know how everyone will think and react, but still controlling them and controlling not in a managerial sense or anything, but just leading them correctly. मतलब कोई ऐसा नहीं हो, अगर if you are harsh to get job done from one, ऐसा नहीं हो उसका दूसरे पे impact गलत आ जाए. तो वो बैलेंस जो मेंटेन करना पड़ता है वो बहुत ही स्ट्रेनियस एक्टिविटी हो जाती है. यू हैव टू बी अलर्ट ऑल द टाइम कि नहीं यार ये ऐसे नहीं, मतलब बहुत ज्यादा अपने पीज एंड क्यूज करने पड़ते हैं. अच्छा, तो yes.
I personally identify as someone who has been a wallflower, because even in my school time, there have been situations where I've been included even though I didn't have to participate. And I think one interesting thing was that back in 11th standard, I used to be that kid. Till 11th standard, I used to be that kid. Even during recess, I would just sit with a book and, keep my head down in it. And one perk of being a wallflower is that you get attention from unexpected places. There was a friend of mine. She was not a friend back then, but she was an aggressive extrovert, okay? And she used to gel with everyone in the class. And she took personal offense at the fact that I didn't speak with her, Utna. Not because I had some prejudice against her, but because I was too invested in my book in all the, lunch breaks. So for one whole month, she tried to get a high out of me by trying to get my attention off the book and onto her. And that was quite interesting. And then afterwards, I started talking with her a bit. And then we became best friends for the 2 years I spent in high school. So that is one perk, that you get attention from unexpected places. And second perk is that people tell you things, okay? And that is something that has helped me even in the work that I'm doing, because what I do requires me to gather information from people who may not be comfortable giving that information, because I'll be using that information to complain about those people to the management. So just being someone who can lurk about, who can be all smiley and silent, gives people the confidence to tell you stuff of their own accord. So I feel that these are 2 perks of being an absolute wallflower.
I think a wallflower would be someone who's just on the side, not participating. But yeah, I mean, okay. So wallflower basically grows on you, and you know that when people take you in that group and when they're talking to you, despite the fact that you are not talking to them and you are not mingling that much, but they are still, they want to talk to you. You know that it's only because they really want to, not because they're going to get anything out of it, but because they really want to. So I think that's a perk, knowing that you don't have anything to offer. You're a really quiet person. You don't talk that much, but someone still wants to friends with you. But I think in the movie very clearly, Sam says, you can't spend your life being a wallflower, because what you're doing as a wallflower is you're living vicariously. You're living through other people. You're not living on your own. You're not living for yourself. Like she says, you can't expect to just be on the side, observe people, and feel that it's love, right? Because she clearly says that, why didn't you kiss me when I wanted you to? And he's like, I didn't know you wanted me to. And I just wanted to be happy. And she clearly says that, what about you being happy, right? So I think that's a peril of being a wolf.
I love it when a certain scene or a certain thought is brought back in the end. It's very effective, very simple, but it works every time. If it's done right, it works every time. So you know which scene I'm talking about. I'm talking about the tunnel scene, obviously. So when it comes midway, or when the first time it comes, I want you guys to maybe help me understand what the characters at that point were feeling. All the three characters. So there is Charlie, who's first time वहाँ पे उनके साथ में है. Patrick, and they have done this before. They have अभी नया नया गाना सुन रहे हैं पहली बार वो लोग. एक नया इनको नाम पता नहीं नाम क्या है उस गाने के बारे में, नाम नहीं पता है. And then Sam stands up and she's feeling something. Charlie's looking at her and feeling something. And Patrick is also there. I just want you guys to maybe like break down, rationalize, analyze what those people are feeling at that point, or like just director ने अगर बोला होगा कि भाई तुम्हें ये feel करना है, वो क्या बोला होगा? If you have to think from that perspective, कि अगर पैट्रिक को बोला गाड़ी चलाना है, तो उसके मन में क्या होना चाहिए? What do you think probably was there in their heads?
I think in the first tunnel scene, Charlie has just become friends with them, or kind of on the way to becoming friends with them. So he's still figuring it out. He's still trying to be comfortable with them. He's not wholly comfortable, but he's getting there. Like he questions as well, why is she going outside and what's going on. He's trying to get comfortable. He's not quite out there. I think all three of them in the first tunnel scene don't completely feel free, okay? Because Charlie has a lot of secrets. He has a lot of things within him that he's not been able to talk about, that were repressed. Okay. So he's not entirely free. The second tunnel scene is when he's actually free. When he goes out, he lets go of his hands as well, and he stands. That's where he is actually free. Similarly for Sam, she in the first tunnel scene, okay, she loved her. When you see her character, you will feel that okay, she's brilliant and she's out there, she's confident, right? But she doesn't love herself entirely, and she doesn't feel that she is worth it, right? But the second tunnel scene, when she finds a song as well, she has a roommate, and she turns out she's found the song. She's free. She knows, that she deserves a lot now. Same for Patrick, where he's free from Brad now. Just one thing, you mentioned callback of scenes. One very iconic dialogue which was brought back again towards the end. We accept the love we think we deserve. It came back. Mr. Anderson says it in the beginning, and then Charlie says it to Sam. So I think that one was special for me.
There's so many things about the tunnel sequence, man. The first thing that about the tunnel sequence is, back in the day, this exact thing has happened with me as well. Okay? You've been listening to a song on radio and stuff, Akashvani pe or whatever, and you don't know what it is. And then years later, you discover it with someone who's you come across someone who suggests you this. So that is something, it kind of brought me back to when I watched it recently, to simpler times without Shazam. And no digital advantage over things that, ठीक है, अभी पता चल जाएगा मुझको क्या है, 2 मिनट की तो बात है, search engines and stuff. So that is one thing. दूसरा ये about the tunnel sequence. First scene, पहले scene में तो Charlie is full simping over Emma Watson, ठीक है. She's like arms spread करके on a tunnel. She's giving eye contact है. Is he completely simping over her is what I feel. But yeah, and also it felt great to watch Emma Watson in a non-Hermione role. I don't know. उसके अलावा you feel these characters have been in like stereotyped or cast in this kind of a role for so long, you would want to watch them in a different role. And Perks of Being a Wallflower did that for me in Emma Watson, and also Ezra Miller, who's now the Flash, but he was Patrick long back, and he did a lot of justice to that role again. But end mein, when again that scene plays, it's like Emma Watson doesn't do the tunnel, wo wala. It's Charlie's turn now. It's his time to face the world again. The thing about hope and stuff. So there's so many emotions about the tunnel sequence. Pura matlab the song even, it's so perfect, man. And like it's a lot of emotions actually, and perfect way to start and end the movie effectively. That way I feel.
But I felt when it comes to Sam's character, the initial, and even Patrick's character, the time initially that when they'd gone through a tunnel, it was more out of a sense of escapism. And जो second time last में दिखाया जाता है, that is when they are more present. That is when they are more accepting
in
of
control.
What I wanted to say was more along the lines of how the tunnel scene embodies, finding magic in the mundane, right? Because there's nothing special about that tunnel. Even the skyline that you see after you get out, it's very like okayish. And the interesting thing is that the first tunnel scene did not have anyone in it. The very first tunnel scene in the movie is when the opening credits are rolling. When you are going through the tunnel without any music, and you also feel कि हाँ ये normal tunnel ही है. Then in the second scene where they're going through it, when there's a happenstance that happens when the song is playing and they're standing and all of that, that's when the tunnel becomes a place that is magical. And at the end, like you rightly said, they deliberately recreate that moment at the end. Us time pe there's no by the radio, they go to the tunnel, they play that song, and they are in control, and it just like it hits very well.
I think Charlie was stoned in that scene. He had the brownie, right? If I'm not wrong. He was not only mesmerized just by the character of Sam, but also by the pairing which Sam and Patrick had, and like the kind of things which they are part of. So he was just like, and then again, like he was obviously he was constantly like looking at Sam, and I think for Patrick it was like a routinal escape. Like it's kind of a thing, like Sam and Patrick both, that you have some places like you mentioned, like Sealing, for example, that you go to those places, that you'll have a certain different kind of experience. So they escaped the party and then they were going to that particular place. The idea is that at that particular moment, like why do you even need a place, to remind you of a good feeling, or like because there's something not right with the current situation which you are in. The current place where you are in is not giving you, like that high, and that's why you're looking for something else. And that's what that tunnel was about. And in my daily life as well, I find tunnels being very fascinating. And I think I've thought about it like in my normal time, and I think one of the reasons is the lightings. Like there's huge amount of warmth in a tunnel, like because if there would have not been a light, it would have been very Batman kind of thing where you're going inside a dark place, and so you put in lights just to make it more happening. And whenever you walk into a place which has more lights, I think it lifts you up. Then I think there was like once they come out of the tunnel, I'm not 100% sure, but again, there was some kind of bridge which was upcoming, I think, and that adds the fact that I'm pretty sure there is a very good wind which is flowing, evident from the fact that they open their arms and like express themselves. So that particular moment was like I think it was a combination of it's a place which gave them the high. They were looking for it. Now going to the second scenario, now Charlie had seen that happening with Sam, like how that she felt very good about it, and this time again, like someone already mentioned, that it was his turn. Like and for Patrick, I think it was very constant. I think it was very constant feeling that they're going towards the same thing. Sam kind of had her whole new world perspective. Like she has moved on to a different world. She has now explored something new, and she's happy that now Charlie will be trying out the same thing. And for Charlie, one thing which I noticed very particularly was that he first was sitting looking backwards, then he kind of went on his knees, and then he was like, he put his hands, like it was broken down into multiple actions, and then he put his one arm above, then the second one, and like it was a very slow action, which shows that he's not too sure of it, but he still wants to experience it. And then like it kind of slowly unfolds. So yeah, like that's the what I see. Yeah,
I love the way you explained that last bit, especially because I remember जब वो बाहर आके बैठता है तो वो जो ट्रेलर वाला पार्ट होता है उसका उल्टा बैठा होता है. He's not facing them, he's facing the past, still facing the past in a sense. And she reaches out to him and reminds him, or like he's showing his back to them in a sense, not consciously maybe, but like he's showing his back to them, and she
it's like contemplating what has happened before. Yeah,
exactly. And then he turns around, she kisses, and then they embrace each other, and then he stands up dhire dhire karke, and then he embraces the future and what's lying ahead. And I mean this saying that makes me feel even more like happy that the way it all wrapped around so well eventually.
They chose a David Bowie song to close it off, and someone who has had his share of issues with mental health, someone who has gone through that traumatic experience, and even like he was also a bisexual. So with that also he has had to deal with, like there was a phase, I think or I don't know what scenario it was, but he used to cross dress, I think. I don't know if it was one of his performances or what. So maybe he's had his share of problems, and when that reassurance that we can be heroes, it's okay, it will get. When it comes from a place of, or from a person who has already made it now, it's sort of that it's more comforting. It just gives you, yeah, it does get better. It's not just something said for in vain in the air. It just holds some value. So
जब शुरू में जब पहली बार वो उनके ग्रुप जब वो उन दोनों के साथ में वो दोस्ती शुरू होती है was during the homecoming वाला जो prom night, homecoming night जो पार्टी चल रही होती है, that thing was happening, and that was the first time he was like, as Arijit mentioned, he was like in that final scene, he's slowly trying to not still not sure, एक हाथ रख रहा है फिर दूसरा हाथ रख रहा है, खड़ा हो रहा है धीरे धीरे. If you remember the first time he was trying to integrate into their group, he was trying, he was getting into the zone, धीरे धीरे आगे चल के जा रहा है, and then they embrace him, then they probably take him in अंदर से अच्छे से. But I loved that specific sequence, that initial prom night sequence, primarily because it sets up how उसने खुद ने सामने से initiate किया था ये चीज, उसका अंदर से मन था, and it wasn't just like he wasn't just their influence of कि भाई उस पे चढ़ गए वो लोग. He initiated himself because he felt, or he could sense a different vibe coming from them, and of course he was liking the girl obviously, but it was just the vibe that they had which felt so different from everybody else around him, and he felt seen as well when he was with them. So I just love that sequence a lot because it shows how they had embraced him as a person, and then how empathetic they were and observing they were for each and every one of their friends. Any scenes or any moments that you remember from the film that really stayed with you?
Yeah, so one thing that I was pretty intrigued about was the element of mystery जो aunt को लेके होता है ना उसके कि starting में the journey that it takes you through is that पहले it makes you feel like the grief of losing someone, and then it makes you feel के the guilt of causing someone's death, and then quickly it brings you to the guilt of feeling relief over someone's death. And वो जो जर्नी बताया ना वो पूरा के it adds to the mystery कि हाँ you don't completely know कि क्या हुआ, what happened with the aunt, you feel sorry कि अरे यार she passed away, which might have caused him all this trauma and stuff. But when you realize this, I feel it's so well done. कि obviously someone who took advantage of you that way, and you are so innocent that you are not equipped to feel what you're feeling, but yet you do, and feeling relief over someone that they're gone. Okay, you won't be subjected to that kind of treatment again, but you're too innocent and too naive to feel that way, right? So I felt that was very complex. I don't know, which is why he goes through this entire trauma. What am I supposed to feel with this entire episode? I felt that was very well done in terms of ऐसा जो mystery के हिसाब से present किया कि what actually happened.
I mean, sure we can right now retrospectively rationalize all that happened and all that might have happened या जो भी suggest किया है film में हुआ होगा. But the sensitivity with which they deal with it, the suggestive nature, the treatment again, वो क्योंकि उसको आप अगर rationalize कर दो, exact words में रख दो, तो वो थोड़ा I don't know छोटा नहीं हो जाता, but बहुत specific हो जाता है कि भाई इस specific disease की वजह से या इस specific cause की वजह से ये effect आया. वो I think that poetic quality then probably vanishes, which I like that didn't happen here.
The part where Charlie confronted Candice for when like his boyfriend like she was like slapped and he went inside, like I think there was some hesitation, but he still went inside and he wanted to make sure that she was doing right and like she was doing good, okay. So that was one. Yeah, so and then confronting the person in the cafeteria when like Patrick was being beaten up. So that quality, when the time came, he was able to stand up, even after whatever he was going through. He somehow had this inside that when time. So it kind of reminded me of Harry Potter and like the Neville's character, where he was being rewarded for being like Dumbledore says that he like it takes so much courage to be like this. So that's like one scene, and the other, like it's a very kind of funny scene, is that like Sam is sitting in in a cafeteria waiting for, sorry, Charlie sitting in cafeteria waiting for Sam. He's like, is for sure waiting for her and like looking throughout. And then when she comes in, he noticed her and then like went to his book again. And when she comes in, he says that, hey Sam, didn't see you coming. So that was also like, I really liked that one.
Yeah, first of all, I found the defining song very interesting because in the movie it's Heroes by David Bowie, but that's not the case in the book. In the book, the defining song is Asleep by the Smiths. And that just shows you the difference in the vibe between the book and the movie. Secondly, some very random things that I was very impressed by. First of all, the cut during the Christmas scene where they're all having shortbreads at church, and that immediately transitions to him having LSD at a party. I think that was something that was very cleverly pulled off in the movie. Then there was that scene where they are getting their shop projects evaluated, where Patrick threatens that if you fail me, you'll have to like have me again for next year. And then Patrick celebrates that, okay, I am below average, and that is something that he celebrates. I found that really nice. And that one random scene in the cafeteria towards the beginning, where Charlie is contemplating about the people in his school, right? So where he says that, okay, Mary Elizabeth is a Buddhist and a punk, but I don't know, she sometimes feels like my father when he's tired after a long day at work. Or even that girl, what's her name? The girl with Mary Elizabeth, who likes to steal jeans, even though her family is very wealthy. So these things just show how, he perceives these people to be shopping for personalities, because that's what you do during your high school, right? So that's something I found very interesting. Very random, but very interesting.
One thing that I want to like mention, like that completely like ruins me during Perks, is when he calls Candice and he's like, I killed my aunt, didn't I? Because he must have been hoping so much that she dies, right? He must have been hoping continuously that she dies. And when she finally does, he feels like he's the one who killed her. And he's like, what if I wanted to kill her? So that scene just breaks me. And uske baad 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I watched the movie only sobbing. But that scene was very impactful, the way it was put, by saying that I killed her because she went to get my birthday present, right? Because till that time, we think that Charlie has trauma because his aunt died and because his aunt had problems. But then he says that he wanted to kill her, and what if he wanted to kill her? That's where we realize that, oh, something else is up. Because the book was very clear in a lot of ways regarding the main trauma, but the movie did not do that. But these very, very small things throughout the movie tell us what the major defining problem was. For example, that part where Emma Watson Sam is rubbing Charlie's thighs, and that's what triggers him, right? Then the part where he says, what Aunt Helen did to me. I don't know if you know someone who has that done to them, right? That's those very small things throughout the movie, like towards the end, where we realize that something else is up. It is again very open to interpretation, not as clear in the movie, but I think it defines a lot of things. And it was very, very delicately put. And this last thing, I won't take a lot of time, but the movie is very empathetic to its characters in a way that you feel empathetic, even if like the character had a lot of problematic things. For example, the aunt herself was not like a character with a lot of dialogues. The aunt did not have a lot of screen time. But we know that, okay, the aunt had bad boyfriends. She had a very terrible past with them. She was self-harming. We know a lot about her and we know why she was like that. Somewhere it makes us empathetic to the aunt's character as well. And I think I love that about the movie, how we can feel, how we are very impartial about every character throughout the movie.
It's very weird that, as you said, it's shot mostly in warm colors. It doesn't give a cold kind of feeling. And also, it's not dramatic as the other high school films. Like, if you want to show a popular girl who the main character is simping over, you show her with flowing hair and, nice lights everywhere, blah, blah, blah. She was shown as she is when Sam first meets Charlie, but it's also through Charlie's perspective. And just to show her, in a more fantastic light, we have like a stadium light or something behind her. So it shows like there's an aura. And it shows that, in his eyes, she's on a higher level, as well as there's an aura around her. So that's amazing cinematography, amazing. Also in the tunnel scene, when, the characters go through it, both the tunnel scenes, they've shown the characters' faces to show us how they feel rather than tell us how they feel. And that's why we are having this entire discussion, like, and analyze how are each of those characters feeling.
एक चीज थी जो Charlie, when after the football game, he first time hangs out with Sam and Patrick, or they're just discussing bands, and they say Smiths, then they say Kings, and he said, yeah, I love them, and then Patrick corrects him, it's not a band, it's a music store. So basically, like, the place where he was just trying to, sort of fit in कि हाँ बोल के, just इसमें तो include हो जाता हूँ, ऐसा नहीं हूँ इससे भी ostracize हो रहा हूँ. But they are so welcoming of him, they don't condescend him for not knowing something, or they don't stretch it too far to, like, embarrass him. They just correct him right away, and like with a smile, and like वो बहुत छोटा सा correction है, but I think वो when you're trying to enter somewhere ना, वो चीजें थोड़ा सा comfort bring करती हैं, और maybe they would just let it slide कि हाँ ठीक है, मतलब उन्हें फर्क नहीं पड़ता. बट वो चीज जो एक छोटा सा करेक्शन भी होता है ना, आपके फ्रेंड्स ही आपको करेक्ट करते हैं बिकॉज दे वांट टू लाइक वेलकम यू एंड मेक यू फील कंफर्टेबल. तो वो एक छोटा सा करेक्शन मेरे लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट था उस सीन में. सेकंड थिंग थी चार्ली का बर्थडे ना, इन्होंने क्रिसमस के अराउंड होता है राइट उसका. तो वेन एवर थिंग्स हैपन अराउंड लाइक योर बर्थडे इज अराउंड समथिंग वेरी फेस्टिव एंड ऑल, सो एंड यू आर अ पर्सन हु वांट्स टू स्टे अवे फ्रॉम दैट, तो वो और डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है आपके लिए उससे दूर रहना, क्योंकि relatives are coming over, some friends are coming over, तो और इट्स आप उस स्पेस में आ जाते हो ना. और इस टाइम पे फ्रेंड्स भी लाइक मूवी में भी जो होता है, सैम और पैट्रिक अपने अपने घर में चले जाते हैं, तो मे बी वो जो उसकी डिस्कम्फर्ट वाली स्पेस थी वो और एम्पलीफाई हो जाती है, और बर्थडे के अराउंड ही गेट्स लिटिल टू मोर सेंसिटिव. सो आई थिंक वो बहुत अच्छी उन्होंने डिटेल यूज की थी. दे कुड हैव जस्ट प्लेस्ड इट ऑन अ रैंडम डे, बट I don't know, it just adds to it.
When, Charlie being a wallflower, he's being kind to Mary Elizabeth, in also kissing Patrick back. He's being kind to him, but he doesn't realize the actual damage that it does. किसी का rebound वो होना, या फिर just because someone is saying कि हाँ, I don't want to break your heart, तो मैं तुमको date कर लेता हूँ, and then causing them a kind of this thing. I feel that was also very naturally done. People also go through that kind of stuff in high school.